Hello, everybody. Good Monday evening to you. I am Jonny Torres. Welcome to The Yard Sign, the most important and relevant podcast in politics. I'm glad that I have this show to do. I would have absolutely no clue what day of the week it is. I actually, one of the virtues of having started my own business this year was that I actually got to celebrate the holidays without having to work. So I almost completely lost track of what day of the week it was. But thankfully, it's Monday night and it's 7 o'clock, and that means it's time for The Yard Sign. We appreciate you for watching. Don't forget, you can subscribe to the audio portion of our show. The audio podcast is on Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon, and Audible platforms. Make sure you subscribe, like, comment, leave us a review. Those are huge for us as well, so other people can find us. And then again, for the video version of this show, I'm sure you're already watching on YouTube, on Facebook, and we appreciate you for doing so. Please subscribe, like, and share on those platforms as well. We've got a bit of a quaint cast today, but nonetheless a really strong one, so I'm excited. We've got a new guest, someone that hasn't been with us before, but someone I've been incredibly excited about bringing on the show at some point, and we finally made it work, and I appreciate him for making the sacrifices he needed to be here tonight. We'll get to that in a second, but we'll go through tonight's topics, and I thought I had updated these, but unfortunately I did not. So let's see. Stimulus bill, Nashville bombing, Georgia Senate runoff, and the state of the media. And I'm sure there'll be a few other things kind of there in the mix. Right now, let's go ahead to the main table and check out our guest for today over there. On the far left, again, that gentleman right there, you may recognize him from such hits as Project Veritas, Turning Point USA. I don't know. It's you name it. That is the renowned CNN whistleblower, Cary Poarch.
Hello, how's it going?
What's up, man? How you doing?
Dude, it's good. It's good to be here. Thanks for having me. I know we were trying to juggle some scheduling issues over the last few months, but appreciate your persistence, and we get this done, and we're finally getting.
Well, I mean, aside from the fact that I've been wanting to have you on here because of what you did, for not only politics and for the country, but also for the state of the media, and that's obviously one of our topics today. You spoke to the Young Republicans almost a year ago.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Isn't it?
How time
it feels like 2 years ago.
It does.
But you had incredible insight and a great message, and again, it's a story that we don't hear too often, and that people are easily just willing to dismiss. They just brush it off, when they hear about this stuff that goes on behind the scenes at media entities like CNN or even Fox News and MSNBC and some of these other the machines. That's right. So again, thanks so much for being here.
My pleasure.
We're gonna also get into this week's political topics as well. And then over to the far right, he is the Butch Cassidy to my Sundance Kid. Yeah, that's Anibal, David Cabrera. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. This is great. I love your story. I think it's awesome. And I'm just excited to have you sit in this room and just have that conversation and your input of what the topics we're talking about today.
It'll be fun and stuff. And we met roughly about
a year ago,
October-ish. Last year. It's crazy. And indeed, time flies. Then we had the Bud Light 19 that came into the country and swept the world. Our used to call COVID is Bud Light.
Bud Light. Oh my God, that's such a good one.
Corona. No, it's Bud Light. It's piss water.
Oh my gosh. Now we've alienated half our audience.
Unsub. So.
Well, let's go ahead and get started with, again, the topic being the stimulus bill, okay? Because, of course, after, lots of fireworks about it only being $600 and then all this money that's going to other countries, the president seemed to have just buckled and signed the bill. And I know that's pretty devastating to, his supporters and certainly those of us who, wanted to see him really kind of take this fight to Congress and get out of it what he wanted out of this. Now, some people are saying that this was kind of part of the plan all along. This is what I think, and then I'll let you guys take it from there. This is a primer. Okay, this is basically just like a placebo for the Biden administration to then come in, and they're going to pass some massive, ridiculous bill and obviously trying to kind of then win over the American people and saying, oh, look at all this money that they're giving us, because again, it's unfortunately that is the best strategy that the Democrats have, and that's giving away money. That's giving away our tax dollars. And I think they're going to come in and say, you get a check and you get a check and you get a check. And it's going to be ugly. It's
the new Great Society.
Yeah.
Possibly.
I mean, to me, again, I didn't get the first check. I probably won't get this one either. I mean, it at this point, does this even come up on anybody's radar? Does anybody even care anymore? I mean, does the $600 do anything at this point?
I think I will say this. I think Nancy Pelosi has been, and we mentioned this earlier, Nancy Pelosi is a phenomenal politician. I think she's done a great job helping the Democrat and the Democratic Party and screwing over Republicans and really the presidency. And I will go as far as say that she's probably one of the bigger reasons why Trump lost his reelection campaign, because she kept on stalling this package that has been in the works since July in September and August. So I will say that because of her willingness to knowing how to play the game, she ran out the clock. She had the ball and she ran out the clock. So now, instead of us arguing about this in September, we're arguing about this 3 days before Christmas last week, right, and getting passed onto the president's desk, and then him getting upset because he wasn't getting the attention that he wanted. And I will also say that he probably is upset that they could only organize $600. That's ridiculous. Mnuchin under the table. I think they told him $600 and he stuck to it and he got the deal done. If he would have asked for $2,000 and they would have sent it to the media saying the Democrats were balking on it, it would have been a winner for us.
But he did though. I mean, months ago he was asking for a lot more money. I think 1,200 was always the number, and he'd been saying this for months. This wasn't like a last minute thing.
No, I agree with you, but the point is that they were unable to make hay out of that situation, and now we're in an area where we've just now passed a $2 trillion omnibus bill and a $900 billion stimulus package, which some has legitimate things inside of it: aid for schools, aid for vaccines, increasing the unemployment by I think 11 weeks now. But to say that we're just going to start sending people checks is becoming a little disingenuous, I want to say. And yeah, now you're just feeding the beast. But
right,
it puts everyone in a horrible position because you have 2 Senate seats that are up for grabs in Georgia. And what are you going to do about that now?
Well, you're going to do what Hollywood and media does best and throw money at a singular state, akin to Doug Jones in my home state of Alabama this last cycle. Mm-hmm. What's that, the first time, if not ever, but in decades, that Alabama Senate seat was blue now?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I have a bunch of dear and dear friends in Georgia. I even asked my friend, his name's Josh, and I was like, hey, I can only imagine how crazy the airwaves and your mobile device is getting tech. He's like, dude, it is insane. And he's like a very, very, one of the most moderate, center-of-the-road people I know, can look at something very objectively. And he's like, it's worse than the 2016 election, where it's like, hey, let's just get it over with. Then, of course, now we have a contested election in some parts. Now the 2016 election isn't even over to some degree.
Correct.
But what you're saying earlier, guys, is that this kind of reminds me of, 5,600 pages, 5,800, something like that, this omnibus bill.
Yeah.
It was like crazy, almost 6,000.
6,000 pages, yep.
Doesn't it kind of smell like the old, the 08 bailout, where they're like, hey, it's X number of thousands, but hey, you got to pass it to, see what's in it. To your point earlier, like, credit where it's due, Pelosi is a phenomenal politician. Like, she knows the game. She's been there decades. She's doing well for her team. So credit where it's due. It sucks that it has to be on the backs of the American people.
Well, and I think a lot like we saw with Obamacare, they weren't just sitting around waiting for this thing to happen or this opportunity to come along. They've been working on this for months. And that bill, I think, has been ready to go for months. And I think only the Democrats really knew what was in it. And honestly, when we're talking about this money going to foreign countries, I think that's just the icing on the cake. I'm sure, again, 6,000 pages, there's stuff there that we may never get to know what's in it.
$4.4 million for former presidents. And I don't know exactly how that goes, if it's to their staff or their foundation. I'm like, you guys literally have the best retirement package ever. Like, what do you guys need more for? But that's just my personal opinion.
It's a ridiculous package that they get free healthcare,
Like,
free security
Was it
for a lot of them.
200K a month, 200K a year for life or something?
Could you imagine 200K a month? Oh, I would actually no. I wouldn't pacify these people because they make the amount of was the wealth of a senator or a congressman when they get into Congress, and then when they leave Congress is so massive, and you're like, no real job allows you to do that.
I would say-
Only in politics.
Absolutely, and I always would get some heat for this, but I would always say that Congress or a senator, like if you're on the Hill, that is the best part-time job you can ever get.
Yes.
Was it your kids can get? What is it? Forgiven student loans, or that's one of the perks, or something like that. Like, not only do you start out at 174K with full house and all the stipends,
Healthcare.
it's like your own barber underneath the house.
That's right.
I don't know if you guys have ever been to DC, but if you're allowed to go under the thing, it's literally its own like
It's
little
a little
city.
village,
Little city. It's got its barber, its meat market, it's whatever. It's just
There's a
crazy.
train.
The
People don't know. There's a
trolley,
train
yeah.
down. There's a trolley, which I took full advantage of when I was in DC.
Dude,
I
that's
wasn't
a lot of
walking.
walking, it's
Oh
crazy.
no! I was wearing really good shoes at that time,
still,
and I
yeah,
was
like-
not going to walk it.
We will definitely take that escalator of sorts. The Denver airport, the walkway. or
Oh,
whatever,
the Denver
so.
airport. But I will say, I will say this: the house has just passed the $2,000, and I'm gonna call it like the boost check. Basically,
Okay.
that's what it is.
Okay.
It's a boost. It's another $200,000. It's another $2,000 per person.
Is
24.
it today? Did they? I was watching C-SPAN before I came over. Did it pass?
So
the
it
two-thirds?
just passed 275 to 134.
Which
So
is-
it did pass. A lot of Republicans
I
voted for
thought
it.
280 was the cutoff for 2/3.
I believe which it says it passed.
Okay, well then. all right.
Comes the day after Trump has signed the sweeping coronavirus. So I think it is going to go to the Senate. I won't be surprised until it gets tomorrow. I wouldn't be surprised if the Senate passes it as well. And the only reason why I say that is because, again, you're going to give the Democrats another tool to hit you over the head in Georgia. That makes absolutely no sense. Don't get me wrong. I don't think this shouldn't be a $2,000 addition to what they're handing out. However, if you're going to spend $2 trillion, might as well send some of it to the U.S. citizens. And they could always claw back stuff out of the omnibus bill. But this is just, who cares? Honestly, it's just money they're going to print.
Like if you just look at the math of it, I mean, this is like my inner Ron Paul coming out. It's like, it's like now it's starting to balloon past the mathematical singularity where there's just no return sometimes. And again, I don't know the ins and outs of what the president can or do, what the executive office can do with this, but to me, it's terrifying. Like when you literally like, hey, we're going to throw this on there with like 3 or 4 hours to read a $6,000 page. Like people hate on those 5 or 6 people that voted no on the bill, but I actually applaud them because like me in good conscience, regardless of policy, like I couldn't vote for anything at 6,000 pages with like 4 hours to read the whole. Even with a stat that you get to hire a staff of like 18 to 20, but you can only control F so many things and stuff. So.
I think what we're seeing now, and I'll be honest, the people that probably voted against it, which there are Democrats and Republicans on both sides that did, are the ones that are not taking the advantage and sticking pork inside of it last second, which a lot of these congressional districts do last minute because that's the only way they get their stuff in because they know they can never win a up or down vote. So you see that now. Hector Gonzalez is talking about how it is kind of, you can justify the fact of giving money to other countries when it comes to the geopolitics requiring lots of money so that they're able to consider to do business in other parts of the world. I understand that, and that could have been in a different bill.
Right.
Like that's
right.
Why is it that we're able to do a 6-page bill for an extra $2,000 per person, but we can't do these other things in a timely
Well, but that was
manner?
the thing. Politically, they knew that it would be unpopular for the president to veto another stimulus bill, another paycheck, right? For people that are struggling out of work and that sort of thing right now. And that's what they do. They take advantage of these opportunities when they know that there's something that you can almost just not say no to, and they load all this stuff on top of it because they know that it would just politically be disastrous for them to either the Senate not to pass it because of what's happening in Georgia, or for the president not to pass it because he's so concerned about his popularity.
Hey, pass it, the $2,000, and then we're probably going to win. We'll win one of the 2 seats, and we'll talk about this a little bit later. And then don't pass anything else moving forward. We have control of the Senate. We have complete veto power when it comes to the Senate, and just stop it there. But do not allow us to be put in this position where we're going to vote down extra money for people, which will probably sway some voters in Georgia.
Sadly, but I can understand.
Yeah, I can.
understand.
I completely
I can
understand
empathize
it.
with it because, like so. without giving details, because yay doxing, but like I work in telecom now, and we were one of the industries that we were able to start working from home when whole COVID happened. So I was thankful to have a job, but I was taking those calls from people like. Remember, there was 40 million people out of work in like a 30 days time frame. It just happened. I mean, we were taking a lot of those calls, like, hey, like I literally can't pay my bill, and thankfully the company I work for had a heart, and they could kind of say, hey, we'll defer some payments, but I'm just thankful that I could sit at my house and get screamed at by customers, and earn a paycheck, where millions of people didn't. So I can totally empathize with people voting with their true wallet, with their kids are going hungry. I mean, I can't even fathom, like, I have a newborn daughter. I can't imagine losing my income and like having to get on the government dole, but doing what I got to do. So I'm not mad at anyone.
Well, and the worst part is
I'm not mad at them either.
Well, and the worst part is that it's not like before where, okay, if you lost your job, now, especially now in the gig economy, there's all kinds of stuff you can do, right? There's all kinds of ways that you can make some extra money. I mean, when my daughter was on her way, I started doing Uber, because it was like,
you had to do.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, well, worst case scenario pays for her daycare, and it was something that it was an alternative to sitting at home and doing nothing. You know what I mean?
Well, especially when unemployment is more than some people make at their real job. So that's another discussion. But I feel what you're saying.
But again, with the lockdown, people didn't have those choices.
Yeah, because they shut down restaurants, they shut down everything, and you can only, restaurants are just now starting to come back, and you can only have so many Door Dashers. It's a piece of the pie. So it's truly unprecedented, and it was hard to watch.
Having a few clients that own restaurants and have been dealing with that problem, it's very difficult. They've been having to lean in more into DoorDash, Uber Eats, all these other ones.
Huge cut.
It's a ridiculous number that they're losing.
Is it like 30% of the gross? Or something?
It just depends on what's going on, and also some bigger chains get a less amount if you're an individual. Yeah, there's a whole different conversation about that. But what's going on right now? I mean, unemployment's at 6.7%. Real unemployment is probably around 10%. And now we're having conversations. Are we really going to pass another $2 trillion? Like, what do they want to do in the new year? They want
us to get dependent upon the government.
Oh, completely. But they're already talking about this is the first down payment. Like, no, it's not.
Well, and
this can't be with less than 10% unemployed. This cannot be a first down payment happen.
Well, but again, and this is where I want to get some of this conversation going between Cary and I, which is you're starting to see, because there's the trickle effect, right, where they start dropping these little stories out there that's going to then feed the overall narrative, and so obviously Andrew Yang, he's now in Georgia. He's trying to mess around with what's going on in Georgia. He's out there still pushing for universal basic income, and there's a story out saying, hey, this I think it was a city in Canada gave all these homeless people like $5,000, and you'll be amazed at what happened, right? And so they're already starting to lay down the groundwork for UBI and to keep people on the government dole, and they're going to. Yeah, exactly. And so what I think the Democrats are going to try to do long term is saying, well, if the minimum wage is for people, right, which they say that that's what it's supposed to do, which it's not, then the government's going to they're going to say that somehow the government's going to be justified by supplementing that. And I think that's maybe what they're trying to prep us for. I mean, that's just snowballing, but I think
it could be. I mean, I'm not going to say it is or is not in one way, but I never thought about it that way, but I could see it. It's plausible, because it's all about, who has the hand that feeds the people, right. They have the power, like who signs the back of the checks, that type of thing. You have a firm, like you sign the front of the check, right, to your people or something like that.
There's a stamp.
Oh, hey, you're high tech. You're high tech. Oh, that means you're real big. You got a stamp now. But yeah, it's that whole adage of like, hey, which side of the check do you sign, the front or the back? The one that signs the front has the power. It's that type of thing this way. And it's, again, that can go in a whole other different direction. But like the Democrats as a whole have a way better organized ground game and cohesive message. They get everyone on board. There's hardly any public infighting. You go on Twitter and you see a bunch of right-wing infighting, which is kind of sad. I mean, I got the fortunate pleasure of meeting Mike Cernovich in CPAC last year, and I followed him. I'm sure you guys do as well. Amazing legal mind. I'm sure in your profession you'd like to see his hot takes on some things. Brilliant guy. And he tweeted yesterday or sometime this week that the difference, the main many differences he sees between Republicans and Democrats is Democrats want to win, Republicans want to be liked.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's that I'm sure it's an old adage, but that's the first time I heard it, and it blew my mind. Being on one side of the aisle, 24 months ago, seeing that like it was such a cohesive, like when I campaigned for Bernie, and I'm sure that'll probably kiss off the other half of your listeners, like I was. But yeah, when I was a Bernie bro, like when all the meetings and everything, like very structured. Like, hey, you do this, you phone bank these, you do this. Are you going to knock on this neighborhood? It was very just on point. And then coming over to this side of the house, and again, I identify mainly with libertarianism, but on this side of the aisle, like it's just like. It's kind of about feelings. It's weird. Like, hey, we're going to just do this. It's going to magically happen. Okay, what are we doing to make it happen?
It's about what feels good. It's not about whether it works. It's not about who else kind of gets the bad end of the deal. It's about what feels good. Kind of like how they were trying, how the CDC, like the CDC was trying to do with the vaccine. And saying that they were going to have minorities be the first to get the vaccine.
And everyone scratched their heads like, what are you talking about? Shouldn't the most vulnerable and those that are dying be getting the virus, getting the vaccine? And you're like, this makes absolutely, and people pushed back, and people were very upset that they were even pushing that narrative. But everything's becoming so political now. So hopefully it kind of changes in 2021. I doubt that highly.
Well, that's not even talking about the fact of the skepticism that minority groups have with governments and vaccines and all that jazz, which is a whole nother conversation.
Not to sound like a minority in this group, but I wouldn't. I honestly, I'm not surprised that certain groups in this country have a huge stigma when it comes to the government handing out meds.
Whatever
Who would ever think that was
ever gone wrong with our government?
Nothing has the 70s. I mean, nothing has ever gone wrong.
Are you planning your parenthood?
I know. Also, I want to say this: that Andrew Yang just needs to stay in New York and run for like mayor of New York City. Hector,
you'd probably get it. DeBalli's is teeing it up.
Oh, he's horrible. But Hector,
anybody could win.
I know right now, but Hector has a great point that he needs to just stay up north and run for the I think for New York mayor and have that conversation and just let that happen. I don't know what the future is going to hold, but again, I think I'm 70% sure they're going to pass the 2000, like that 1/6. I wouldn't be surprised. But then if we hold the Senate, I don't expect to see any large multi-$100 billion tranche having gone through for the next 2 years.
Yeah, if it's split. Now, here's another conversation or a rabbit hole that, you can go either way with. But like, do you really think that the runoff race in Georgia in January is going to be legit or trustworthy?
I mean, if we want to transition to that,
I didn't mean to jump the gun, but
well, I mean it's our third topic, but we can go ahead and
we can jump that and
we can swap them. Go ahead.
Yeah. So currently what's happening in the U.S. politics is that the two Senate seats in Georgia, which neither were able to get a 50% majority during the national election in November, are now in runoff situations, which will be held on January 5th. At the moment, it is Warnock versus Loeffler, and then Ossoff versus Perdue. Both of the Republicans are current incumbent Republicans. Perdue won his primary by like 48 point something percent. Yeah, he was very close to 50. He was very close to 50%. Whereas Loeffler was a little bit got second, but she was like 1 or 2 points away also. Okay. So it's a very tight race right now. They have from Trafalgar Group polling, Lafayette, Perdue is up by 1 and tied, and the other one is up by 2. So Republicans are up in the moment with the polls, but again, we all know what the polls look like. They're absolutely garbage.
And it's probably based on the modeling from this past election.
The garbage people.
They're not going to get those kinds of numbers to turn out for.
I don't know if Republicans are
elections.
up. If Republicans are up in these polls, then something is going well because they're so screwed to the left already that I was very surprised to see any polls up for Republicans.
Oh, dude, this happened. It was actually this cycle. Speaking of polls, obviously we all know what happened in 2016. It was glorious, like the smugness, like was it triggering 2016? But it was one of these recent polls where it was a CNN poll, my former employer, right? And it's like, hey, it has Biden at plus whatever and stuff. But then if you look at the fine numbers, it said all the respondents, it skewed like 3 to 6 points to the left. I'm like, but this is a totally biased poll. And you're presenting it as an unbiased poll, which, hashtag facts first, right? I mean, it's just...
because they know that they can control the public narrative and that they can actually control, actions and sentiment, based on the information that they put out. It's all intentional. It's all psychology.
Yeah, the media is definitely, if anyone says anything about manipulating the vote and stealing the vote, it's the media. The media is purposely showing or talking more positively about Democrats, are purposely just talking about their positions. Even watching, CNN and MSNBC today, about me doing a little research to figure out what's so much more willing to spin a positive view of Democrats than Republicans. And that was a constant back in the day, but now it's so in your face that you're like, this is impossible. And I'm actually really happy to see that more right-leaning news agencies are starting to pop up and gain more strength now, especially now seeing that how Fox News is this is the thing. A lot of very staunch Republicans, very Trump Republicans, are never going to watch Fox again because they're already upset with them. But then you have MSNBC still hitting Fox News, saying that they're the only ones that are going to be bashing Biden in 2021, which is okay, you can't have it both ways.
Because they're still top dog. I mean, Fox News is still getting the ratings. Tucker's still doing great.
Oh, Tucker's doing fabulous, and he says he's not leaving. That was an interesting point.
Interesting. I missed that one. I was curious to see because, he's now the top dog, and we'll see wherever he goes.
Because they're listening. That's the amazing thing about social media is they're listening to the groundswell. They're listening to what's happening at the grassroots level because they're getting inundated on their social media accounts by it, and they can't ignore it. And so I'm sure Tucker is probably getting messages and phone calls and emails saying, hey, what are you still doing at Fox News? And again, that's why I wanted to talk about it with you today, Cary, in terms of the state of the media, because the landscape is changing. We're seeing it at all levels: entertainment, news, politics. The landscape continues to evolve.
It's delicious.
And it's an amazing time to be.
It needs to
be in the media.
It's people on the center and the right. We like to tout ourselves the marketplace of ideas, the bazaar of ideas, and now it's finally happening where you're getting decentralized information, and now you've got people like your Mark Dices, your Collion Noirs, or any of these right-leaning personalities on YouTube that, Dice, for example, I'm sure you guys watch him. He's a dude in his kitchen, makes some pretty funny videos, and gets, 500,000 to 1 million views.
Right.
As one person with zero overhead.
Yep.
Whereas, now this was so funny at CNN when, the Nielsen ratings came out each quarter, they're all about that. And I would quietly, because again, this is when I was making my transition, to the other side, is I was watching the primetime lineup. It's Wolf, Cuomo, and Lemon are their big three, right? And combined, they would get maybe 1 million views, maybe.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And then you've got the aforementioned people, even Drano and some other people that are just one or two people in their garage in their kitchen popping 500,000 to 1 million plus on their own. And then you've got Tucker and Hannity getting 4 million on their own.
And these are TVs out on the background in airports or retirement centers.
Who got that contract to get seriously?
Someone making money got those contracts.
That is one of the funniest things. Whenever I go to speak and help Veritas out from time to time, that's one of the funniest talking points. James O'Keefe, phenomenal guy, beast. But that's one of the things he literally asked, hypothetically and rhetorically, who sold that deal? Because they must be having some amazing residuals. What salesman is getting kickbacks off that? And what did you have all these airports and hotel chains to sign on the dotted line that's their default channel?
I'm going to say this right now. Someone is getting paid, or at least either someone's getting paid or someone has pictures. Something is happening. Either someone's getting bribed or
certainly
it's DC.
Dude, it's disgusting. But now think about it this way. Okay, so my thing dropped last October. Wow, it was crazy. Then there was whispers of Trump suing CNN, and then a month or two later he sued the CNN with my name in the lawsuit. That was trippy seeing that come up on Twitter.
Did you take that and frame it somewhere?
Maybe.
It's in the bathroom somewhere.
It's on the gold wall. No, but
I still have a copy of my ethics complaint against Charlie Crist. That one's definitely.
My God, that sounds like fun.
That one's definitely in the preservation box.
Oh, in the time capsule. But even more than that, as trippy as that was, but a month or two ago, it's fairly recent that now AT&T is realizing, because they're the parent company. And they're realizing, hey, CNN's let's assume incoming Biden presidency. They're not going to have the Trump bump ratings. They're actually talking to sell off CNN. Now, granted, it's just talks right now, but to hear those whispers bleed out onto Twitter means that there's actually some backroom talks. And I know
well, this is where all the talk about Zucker leaving is coming from, right?
He's having a bad month.
Well, I mean, look, James, and again, kudos to James for staying on target, because I mean he's really been taking it to Jeff Zucker, and I think it's one of these things where you have to think that at some point it's affecting the day-to-day work environment, when he's being outed like that publicly.
No, dude, it's
and he has no way to fire back.
No.
Really.
Felony. This might be a felony. Remember that tweet that CNN PR is like, this might be a felony. Of course,
right after, and it was right after they put out that recording from Melania, right? It was like,
Dude, hey, Jeff Zucker? Yes. Hey, this is James O'Keefe, and I bet he just crapped a brick right there. Now, here's the crazy part. So, just to clear this up on air, I've actually gotten this question a few times. Is that no? This most recent one, that's not me. No, because people say, "How do you still have the codes?" I'm like, I don't have the codes. That's literally another person inside CNN. Again, I don't know who it is. It might be my desk mate from when I was there or in the other bureau. But to me, that's the biggest form of validation. Because of course, it's still terrifying when I think about it.
That you planted the seed, though.
But yeah, that is the ultimate validation that. There were so many people there that I talked to in just the day-to-day, and even outside of my recordings, but that felt the same way, but the pay and benefit package was too good. They weren't going to kick over the apple cart.
Oh, yeah.
But to hear that someone else took the reins and helped James and company get in there and everything and do it, to me, that was the biggest validation. Cool, it's not just me. I'm not just out on this limb by myself anymore. Now, granted, I don't know if and ever that person's going to go public. Maybe, maybe not. But the fact that someone else came behind me, that to me is like, okay, cool.
Once someone breaks the door and breaks the ceiling, it allows other people to go and talk about it. Because there's not, that entire office cannot have everyone thinking the same exact thing. There has to be some people.
It's rare.
Exactly. I mean, it is in the middle.
Groupthink. It's total groupthink.
Yeah.
And not to get completely off topic, but I've actually been watching Leah Remini's docuseries about Scientology. And in a very similar way, again, it's a very kind of cultish type of mentality. Yeah. But once you start to make some cracks in that foundation, more people come out and more people feel comfortable. Some may do it anonymously, some may not, but it starts to expand and it starts to snowball. And I think it's only a matter of time before we continue to see more of this type of content coming out from CNN. And you got to imagine that they're probably, like you were saying in your story, where they're trying to figure out who it is.
Oh, dude, it's like the ABC story, and I don't want to get lost in the weeds, but remember, right after mine was that Epstein bombshell that came out 30 or 40 days later. I'm like, cool, the attention's off me, yay. But think about that. They, for those of you who don't know, just search hashtag expose ABC, and you guys, it'll blow your mind. Still, that's the best story Veritas has done to date. Can't wait to see what else is coming. But, the reporter that they thought did it, she went to go to CBS. She just accepted a position at CBS. For your listeners that don't know, it's a producer lady. Her name's Ashley Bianco. And, she went over to CBS. They thought it was her. I don't know, maybe she had a couple emails. The ABC called CBS, had CBS fire her.
Wow.
And so, hey, we could, instead of
now you got a defamation suit.
It's okay. So instead of investigating this allegation of child, bad stuff for children, let's go try to find the leak and fire her or him.
Oh yeah.
Instead of admitting that they screwed up.
That tells you your priorities for these big media companies, that they're the voice of the truth. It's so ridiculous.
But they were more worried about the egg on their face and the fact that they had a mole inside their organization. Mm-hmm. Again, then the fact that Epstein was an absolutely horrible person doing horrific things. And it's sad that, because they could have really been the shining example of journalism.
The city on a hill. She could have been the fourth estate. Exactly. They really could have done it that time.
And they had it years ago. They were still talking about
let's get the royal wedding. We don't want to upset.
Oh, that upsets me every single time. Yeah. And I'm a royalist, and I cannot believe they're willing to balk for that. But I will say, if they do sell CNN, which I won't be surprised if they do, because again, what is CNN going to talk? What is MSN going to be talking about?
Dude, it's like Trump derangement syndrome. They got nothing now.
Which is why at the end of the day, I think Fox is going to be fine, because now Fox is the opposition instead of what has to carry water. Now they get to bash Biden every single day.
Yeah, but this is the thing: is that the minute that Rupert Murdoch died, the conservative foundation of the network died with him. His son is known as being very liberal.
Yeah, look at Arizona.
Yeah,
I mean, they called it. I don't mean to step on you. I apologize, but think about that. we were all, I'm assuming, at our normal places, election parties. We were watching it our own. I was in North Carolina watching it. And, when I saw Fox call Arizona at like an hour or two into the other, whoa, something's going on here. I mean, I didn't know, none of us knew what was going on, but I like, that's really weird. And then, of course, they wanted to, toot their own horn, like, hey, we were the first ones to call it. And now, of course, again, whichever side you fall on, it's now a contested state, based on the lawsuits and everything like that. So, like, you jumped the gun. At Fox jumped the gun. Normally, people go to Fox to, like, get their election coverage.
I remember, John and I, we were doing a live broadcast at the time, and we were so shocked that about allowing this to happen. And to the credit of Fox, Arizona does large amounts of mail-in ballots, so like you can kind of tell what's going on and going there. And as of right now, they are still proven to be correct that Arizona went for Biden because it's stupid to attack a dead Vietnam veteran. I love doing it because it's true. You don't attack a veteran in Arizona when that's his country. Anyways, moving on.
I mean, I get the logic behind it, but I mean, I was boots on ground in country because of some of his war hawkish, things. So of course, I'm probably on that right side of the fence where I'm not a big fan of Mr. McCain, but I can still respect his service. There's a difference.
McCain got us into 2 wars. Like I don't like him whatsoever. Yeah. But again, the man died. There was no reason to keep on punching the man when he's already in the ground.
All right. So final predictions for the Georgia Senate runoff.
I know.
Even though we went way off track there.
My predictions is
1-1.
My predictions is CNN gets sold.
Oh, funny.
So trying to think, we just
that would be big in Georgia politics.
My gosh!
In general, for 21, right? In general,
I'd say for the runoff, for the Georgia Senate runoff. I mean, do you think they pull off a sweep 1-1? What do you think?
With all the stuff that I've seen in Georgia and Atlanta, I wouldn't be surprised if it goes completely blue. Again, I hope I'm wrong, but with the ground game and of course the stuff going on behind the scenes that I've seen in Georgia politics, it wouldn't surprise me at all, even if Republicans, let's say both seats went red, it wouldn't surprise me at all if somehow it went blue, but that's just my prediction.
That whole Atlanta, Athens, Savannah triangle.
Well, no, even the Staples Center, it's not Staples, the State Farm Arena, that whole video that came out, with that.
It's really ugly. I know that a lot of Floridians have already traveled up north to like help with the canvassing and everything else. We've done a great job with that. Our community patriots did send a bunch of people up there.
Awesome.
Young Republicans will be sending people up there, I think, next week. So a lot of us are doing what needs to get done to try to to make sure we don't lose the Senate. I want to say it's a 1-1. We're gonna win one, we're gonna lose one. I think that might be the most that happens.
Split the baby.
But and if we split the baby, then we win. Then the Republican gets the Senate.
Again.
Yeah, look, and shout outs to everybody in the comments section. Andrea, Jessica, Hector, of course, and Devin
Hector.
just jumping in.
Hector's awesome.
I love him. He's great. Some people, it's they think, he's just doing this. Like, no, he's a highly intelligent guy. And
he's like the seventh man on the on the team.
But he gives some good pushback and stuff when it needs it. I love talking to Hector and stuff. So it's great times
all day, every day with Hector.
Well, and then Devin puts in the comments section that if they do pass the $2,000, Georgia goes 1-1. If not, then like you said, we could lose both of them.
It wouldn't surprise me. And again, this goes back to the stimulus bill stuff. Like, I'm a very, very big America First guy. Like, we got our own problems. I don't know why we're sending billions of dollars overseas when we can't even put foot on our own table. That's a tired talking point, but it's true.
Yeah, so. It's a global politics. I can argue for the distribution. I don't think it was appropriate here. I don't think that should have been in this situation whatsoever. That's literally what the things that people are going to find out in this bill in the next month is going to be ridiculous. I remember, I think 2 stimulus bills ago, it was research for shrimps on a treadmill.
Something
and like how fast. And I'm like, why? But it provides a job. Yes. Oh, and there's video. It's phenomenal. Dude, I think it's
don't even get me started on research projects, because one of the things I learned from working in the Senate was that even the good research projects, half the money right off the top goes to the university. Does not go to the research project whatsoever.
It's for rent or something, or
just whatever. That's just their cut.
They take the cut.
They take half.
It's ridiculous.
So if they get $3 million,
it's like a casino. Yes, exactly.
If they get $3 million for a research project, the university automatically takes 1.5 right off the top. And so you're right
crazy.
there. That's immediately a
the best game in
50% waste of our tax dollars, that are going to subsidize these universities
that already have huge endowments.
Oh, sure.
What I heard? What was the last stat I heard that Harvard's got like $50 billion in liquid cash?
You know what? But the thing is, Harvard and a lot of those other big ones are private institutions. I don't have a problem with that whatsoever. Boo boo, you do you. It's these state state colleges that have been increasing their tuition every single year because they can, because the government will keep on making those payments.
When I went to school, it was $83 a credit hour, in my school in Alabama, and then I look at it now and it's like $200 or $300 for credit. Like it's
crazy.
It blows my mind. But to go back to one of your predictions, we were talking off camera before this. My favorite thing, and I hope it comes true, is like this whole election cycle. What I'm excited about is it pulled the curtain away from, as you said, the wizards before, of the media and of politics in general in Washington, both sides. And I think that it is going to be a bloody massacre in the 2022 primaries. And I am so excited to like see the new blood. That's, even if they don't win, it's going to be, I think it's going to be a huge shakeup. You're going to see all these young guns. I mean, Laura Loomer, you guys know South Florida. She lost her race by 2 or 3 points, relatively close, but Twitter wouldn't let her have her account. Like, she did it with absolutely zero of her own media. She had required on surrogates and everything like that, but she literally lost by just, very, very close, with zero help from
in a district that typically was seen as unwinnable by Republicans.
So I think she's going to basically pick up her seat next time if she chooses to run. But I mean, people like that, these outliers. I mean, you guys. I don't know if you guys were at the Turning Point thing this weekend, but there were so many young, hungry kids out there that. I mean, was it the Madison Cawthorn?
Right, Texas.
Yeah, is it Texas? Yeah, like youngest in 30 or 40 years.
Like 25.
Military veteran.
Great guy, great story.
So, I got to meet him. Super guy, but like people like that. I mean, he basically opened the door for people in their 20s and 30s. I mean. Let's just credit where it's due. Ocasio-Cortez did that last cycle, and now you got Madison Cawthorn.
And props to Madison also, because even here in Florida, Madison and our very own Byron Donalds from Southwest Florida have gotten really tight, and they've been doing a lot of stuff together, both in DC and in Georgia.
It was
but I love this. I love this kind of young coalition that's forming on the Republican side.
Oh yeah, keep Georgia red. I think that.
North Carolina, Madison Cawthorn's from North Carolina.
Yeah, but there was a great bus tour in Georgia right now with a lot of young up and coming Republicans.
There it is. Yeah. Actually,
I know. Yeah. I can
love
hear
you, Hector. I do love you, bro.
Love it,
Hector. You're awesome. So I think what's happening now is you're going to see a lot once this. Again, a lot of things run on this Georgia race. Yep. If it's a 1-1 split, if they're able to pull out the $2,000 and be able to deal with it, I think we have a good chance of getting a 1-to-1 split. Again, Democrats have put us in this position. You got to fight the battle that you're in right now and not lose the Senate. And Cocaine Mitch might do it and just be like, F it. I'm in a plus 16 district or plus state of Kentucky.
Right?
Yeah. That's nothing is ever going to get that man to go until he mixes bourbon with the cocaine. So I think that's what's going to take for him to go. But again, this is going to take a while. Nancy Pelosi's 80 years old, still head of the House, head of the Democrat Party, and first, Biden is not going to be in charge of the Democrat Party. Nancy will be in charge of the Democrat Party. But to see these people trying to start to challenge her, especially if we get closer and closer to her losing the House. I mean, we're down to like single digits of how many congressional houses that she has.
I think, and of course, she's getting a lot of heat from. I hate to use the word, but the squad, those types of progressives and everything, which good on them. They're like, we were talking about Pelosi doing what she needed to do. They're doing what they need to do to get their vote for Medicare for All and their other progressive agenda. So props to how the game is being played on that side.
Oh, yeah. Bowman and Bush, they are newly elected Democrats, and they literally would not say if they would vote for her.
Well, and there's a general disdain, I think, because she's been there so long, and she's probably so out of touch with average day Americans. Again, I think whether you're Republican or Democrat, you can pretty much, I think it's safe to say that Nancy Pelosi is just out of touch.
Well, you got a fridge full of $22 a pint ice cream and whatnot. And I mean, she's worth at least 9 figures last time I looked on OpenSecrets.org.
Well, and California's a mess. San Francisco's a mess right now. I mean,
if you get Elon Musk and Joe Rogan to leave California, you're doing something wrong.
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah. No, it's incredible. It's droves. I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of people leaving California, and look, I think long term, I think 10 years from now, I think the country is going to look very, very different.
How crazy was it for what did we pick up in the California House? Was it 3 or 4 seats?
Picked up five in California.
Yeah.
We picked up 3 in New York. We picked up 2 in Florida. The numbers are astronomical. How bad I can see where people run down the rabbit hole of how we're able to pick up so much and still lose the presidency. Yeah, how we're able to win Ohio and Florida and lose the presidency. I get it.
Yep.
But I also know the candidate, so I'm not surprised.
On that note, a quick shout out to Suzette Valladares, who's actually a friend of mine from when I was at the RNC, and got elected state assemblywoman in California as a Hispanic female Republican. It's unbelievable, and she's going to be amazing. What's happened?
Why does she hate her own people? Why is she a race traitor? You know?
Exactly.
Nancy Pelosi's net worth is $120 million.
Is that on Open Secrets?
Her salary is celebrity net worth.
Okay. Yeah.
Of course, that comes in first.
Having Silicon Valley in your backyard, she's getting paid off.
Her salary is $223,000.
She's got all kinds of side money coming in.
Oh, so much money is coming on the side.
And before your audience comes for me or slices up for Media Matters and stuff, but we all know the trope, or if you're like any shade of non-white, if you vote Republican or Libertarian, then you're a race traitor to your own people.
Right.
You know how that game is played.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, trust me.
But of course, I know Media Matters will come for me and stuff like that. Well, that's when you know you made it if they come for you, right? So.
Oh, of course. Well, and isn't it amazing, though, just as a side note, how like they crashed and burned? I mean, they're not completely out of the picture, but they're nowhere near the juggernaut they used to be.
No, because you've also got a lot of people on the First Amendment movement where now people are starting to push back on political correctness in a huge way, and you can credit like the Lawrence Southerns, the Jordan Petersons, like that type of a sphere with that as well. We were talking about big tech earlier. I watched a documentary on Amazon of all places. Like, do you know Amazon's got some pretty right-leaning documentaries on it now? Like, I don't know, there's something about the Electoral College, and then one I watched today was the creepy line regarding Google and how they went from do no evil or don't be evil to now we are evil. But it's just one of those things where you truly don't know that you're being led down a certain rabbit hole based on your searches.
We're doing this show from a digital marketing and advertising agency, and I've seen firsthand what we're capable of. And so when the 2016 election came around and people were talking about, the Russians spent $200,000, that's it?
Yeah, that's like
I was like, that wouldn't even work in a statewide race.
That changes maybe 10 people's minds.
Yeah,
exactly.
What was it? Bloomberg dropped $100 million in Florida and did nothing.
I was like, I've managed larger budgets for a car dealership. I mean, it's
they have way better turn ratio and like close percentage. So.
Yeah.
Or I mean, you saw the Veritas tape with that lady in Texas and stuff. I charge you $8 a vote. She got like 55K because she brought almost 4,000 votes to the table.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, I'm in the wrong business. So I was like, okay. And that's where we actually busted a Republican congressman.
That was a Republican guy, wasn't it? Yeah.
He was so pissed.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember that one. And then like some old lady got left behind from the bus.
Can you call me an Uber? I'm like, man, that's a campaign contribution. So I'm sorry. Have a nice day.
Oh my gosh. But no, again, depending on what the Senate looks like in the next 20 days, I think what's going to happen is you're going to see either the Republicans go scorch earth when it comes to not allowing anything to come through, or the Democrats are going to go wild because then there's no check, which means that they're probably going to get destroyed in 2020. Kim Davis and I saw that. Thank you very much. Just because how the country hates that kind of incumbency and that kind of spending regime. Like it's going to be absolutely ridiculous to see what happens, because I don't think Americans are going to be willing to stomach another few $1 trillion in stimulus package.
We can't. And that's why you've got a huge underbelly that the media is purposely, now speaking mainstream media, is purposely not covering. Do you guys remember, was a few weeks ago, the Million MAGA March in D.C.?
Right. Yeah.
Like they only showed
nothing.
Yeah, but I mean, or they showed when people were just congregating in Freedom Plaza where there was like a couple thousand people there. And I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, Alex Jones with boots on ground, and I know he's a polarizing figure, super nice guy, but he was there helping out, and some from his camera, and Owen Schroyer and some other people. Like, you literally like, man, there probably is 1 million people here, pretty close. And what you're also going to see, and probably the litmus test, I believe, and again, I might split your readership or listenership in half on this, but to see what happens on January 6th when, Trump called for everyone to come to D.C. So we'll see how big that MAGA rally is. And I think it's going to be pretty substantial. And again, we'll wait and see how the cards fall on January 6th as well.
Well, thank you again, everybody, for watching the Yard Sign, the most important relevant podcast in politics. Jonny Torres with you. We got Anibal Cabrera, as always, and our good friend Cary Poarch joining us for the first time here. Famous CNN whistleblower, ally of Project Veritas and other conservative organizations. And we're excited to have you because we promised we would get you out of here at 8 o'clock. I want to go ahead and just, and not to dishonor, what's happening in Nashville, but I do want to talk about the state of the media because we've touched on it a little bit throughout the show. But you having worked behind the scenes, how do you see the landscape changing, especially like we were just saying, Fox News kind of dropping the ball in the election. We're seeing, more of their news coverage kind of start to stray away from, that kind of center right programming that has made them so successful. Do you think that trend continues, or do you feel that maybe there's some adjustment happening there behind the scenes to try to win that audience back?
Oh, man. Great question, guys. And again, thank you guys so much for having me. It has been a true blast tonight. Hopefully we can do it again sometime
definitely.
soon. But in my humble media opinion, and granted, I only had one media job in my career before I blew it up, my one and only job. But no, what I'm seeing is, and again, not to be analogous with another thing, but I see this decentralization of the media landscape akin to the financial landscape and like cryptocurrencies and stuff like that. It's now decentralizing a lot. Now everyone and their mother is starting to get a podcast, like because they see the success of Joe Rogan's, of like Tim Pool's and everything. I mean, they don't see this is an amazing studio. I know you guys do a fantastic job and a lot of work. It doesn't just happen.
Correct.
But you're going to get to see like I did several little impromptu 2-minute interviews with like budding YouTubers, and I checked their account. I'm like, oh my God, you got like 10,000 followers already? Like, what am I doing with my life? Right. But you're going to see that grassroots boots on ground journalism that Tim Pool started back when he was doing Vice or starting Vice and everything. So I think that, again, marketplace of free ideas, the more people that have a expensive camera in their hand and do things like that, I think that's going to be an amazing check to hopefully, possibly, again, pipe dream, return mainstream media to what it once was in its glory. Will it happen? Probably not. But if not, then you've got this whole other marketplace of these amazing people they may not be experienced, where they can shoot a camera and see what's going on. Yeah. So I think it's going to actually help our Republic and democracy, that more people have their cameras on whatever it is. Like, hey, I've got a free day. I'm going to go down to this hearing or whatever. That way they can't just ram things through. Like, I love seeing the mainstream legacy media freaking the F out right now with their viewerships going. Again, they're talking about buying CNN or selling it off. Like, who would have ever thought that would even be a discussion?
Yeah. I mean, they created cable news.
Like
they started cable news, and to your point, I wonder if because of the decentralization of media, if at some point one of these channels realized, you know what, we got to go full news center, play right down the middle, get rid of the opinion shows, and look, I loved it, kind of like when people, like. When all the Weather Channel did was give the weather, I loved it when CNN was only about news. But then of course Fox News came along and changed the whole landscape and created this divide that we have now that again brought along MSNBC down the road and others. But I wonder if, again, like you said, does this kind of at some point hit a reset button for one of these outlets and say, we're going to go straight news, we're going to get rid of all the talking head stuff and leave that to YouTube and radio and that sort of thing.
I hope so. And it's already starting to do that. And again, I always want to throw in there that I never want to denigrate the people I worked with at CNN. They were fantastic people, most of them. The ones that were behind the scenes, not the talking heads. But fantastic people, they're doing what they think. But it is very interesting to see. And another one, I mean, think about Joe Rogan. He's the most popular podcast on the planet. Because he has everybody on, like left, right, center, far left, far whatever he has.
And now legitimate because he's worth, what was it, over $1 million contract?
But he's actually losing people because that's another discussion about selling out, about kicking off his old episodes with like Alex Jones and Milo and everything like that. But there's one of my favorite things. I'll give them a plug. Is The Rising. You seen that show at all?
On the Hill.
The Hill. So it's got Sager and Crystal Ball.
Anibal's a big fan of those guys.
Yeah, I have a love-hate relationship with them just because they're not they don't lie to you when it comes to, like, they had an interview with the woman that's running for St. Louis Congressional District, who was a Bernie Sanders surrogate.
Okay.
And she was like, look, we've been friends our entire lives. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. If I could vote for you, I would vote for you. And it was like refreshing to see that someone
realness.
willing to be real and be honest. The way they're doing it is their segments are really short, 10 minutes, 15 minutes at the most. And and then the videos just keep on going. So like by 9 a.m., I'm until like 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
You've got a pretty good left-right paradigm. You really do.
He definitely is a never Trumper.
Yeah.
But honestly, he owns it. I have no issue with that whatsoever.
Oh, cool. That's
But the girl on this show is so disarming, right? Because like you look at her and she's attractive, and it's like you just like the fact that she's so far to the left, like almost doesn't even register. You know what I mean? Because again, she makes great points. Yeah. She makes great, and she's very factual. Yeah. She'll call them out when they're screwing up.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Well, she'll call them out when they're screwing up. This is bullshit. and Hector making a great point as always, saying opinion shows are what generates revenues for this channel. Look at Fox, and I agree, but I think with the way technology is going, especially with on demand, it's kind of like radio. Like I don't have to listen to Rush Limbaugh now from 12 to 3 anymore because I can listen to him whenever I want. I can listen to him on my way to work. I can listen to him on my way home. And so it's one of those things where the on demand environment, the on demand environment of our media, I think is going to continue to affect television in the way streaming has, and we're seeing so much content go to these streaming platforms because again, now I don't have to be in front of my TV. There's no such thing as appointment viewing anymore, unless you're talking about a sporting event, really.
I mean, the only problem that we have now is that people are going to look for the truth that they want to hear. They're going to want to hear the facts that they want to hear. And so people are going to go to different platforms. And my opinion and my suggestion is always listen to everyone and then make your own decision. And if anything, I listen to BBC News all the time just because I enjoy the accent. But also because you hear someone...
You like Kathy Newman? No, she's Channel 4.
Oh, no, Channel 4. I don't watch that. I don't watch that trash. The garbage people. And so... But you get that range from list, and The Hill is a perfect example. You get from both sides, and then you make your own opinion. And they're very much of the opinion of like, look, we're going to make our opinion the way we want to. Now, I love what YouTube and now a lot of them are going on their own platform. They're building up their own platforms.
Right, you got Rumble and then some other things, and of course we got BitChute and other things like that. And of course we all know that the YouTube censorship, that rabbit hole. I don't know. I don't have to tell your people that. But the whole deranking, so a lot of these people are mirroring their stuff on multiple channels, like in especially Parler. Parler blew up. Thank God there's actually an alternate to Twitter now. Did you guys see Brian Stelter like crying on air about Parler and everything? Like,
it's so weird to see how offended they get so quickly.
Now they're in their right wing, echo chamber. I'm like, that's what Twitter is for the left.
It completely is. And so, but again, I suggest, and again, my clients are on multiple platforms,
doing what they got to
doing what they have to do to build up their watcher, to build up their audience. The same way we do it. We have multiple platforms for this show also. And I think as that continues to grow and people's audience continues to grow, and they realize you're not lying to them, you're just telling them your opinion and you're trying to be as factual as possible, they're going to believe it. They like the audience, they like the relationship, they like the characters, and they're going to push that direction.
Absolutely. And we've all got our favorites, our handful of people that we watch on various programs. And
and I've told people before, I mean, really, I sat on the name for this show. I kind of sat on the premise for a long time because I wasn't really sure what I wanted the kind of dynamic to be, right? What I wanted the structure to be like. And then I looked online at the media landscape, and again, the Young Turks have been around for so long, and they have such a powerful platform that they've built, since YouTube's early days.
Well, it doesn't help. It doesn't hurt that they were the preferred. Of YouTube, they're like the first one on the news channel.
Well, that's what I'm saying, and so to me, it was like, well, there's the opportunity, right? There's the void. I mean, we need something like that to the right, And again, those guys took, they've been there for probably the better part of a decade, going at it. And so for me, again, in developing this show, it's also a long-term commitment.
It's a long game.
Absolutely. You got to, it's a long game, especially online.
If people want to think they'll go start a podcast today and have like 1 million followers in a week, it just.
Right.
Yeah. Or they do only 10 or 15, 20 episodes and they call it a day. And I'm like, guys, it's an every week.
You guys have heard this name. I mean, the saying, where the saying comes from, content is king.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The late, great Andrew Breitbart. I mean, he's the one that truly trailblazed this whole, he saw this landscape years before it even started. Even, of course, late, great. But, and I'll say this because it was actually visible on public. Like, that's one of the mantras that's up on the wall.
Yeah.
Up at the office is like content is king. It's
Yeah,
true.
wow.
It's like boom, you gotta shove stuff out
Right.
like something every day, and what you guys are doing and stuff. So
yeah, people enjoy it, and we need to keep on doing that and building up the brand because you need more conservative voices, you need more more young Republicans, more diverse Republicans. Again, a lot of people think that there are no Latin Republicans. They don't think there are any kind of minorities that are in the Republican Party, and it's just such a lie.
Dude, one of my best friends I made in D.C. while I was here. His name's Rudy. I'll keep the last name, quiet, but he's Cuban.
Mm-hmm.
His family's from Miami, and like, man, they are the most hyper Republican conservative people. Like, oh my God! But it's crazy when you see these things happen. This might blow your mind. Speaking of right leaning like YouTubers and everything like that, guess you may have to guess who do you think was my, I guess, tip of the apple cart to kind of lead me down that journey on YouTube.
Was he a Democrat before he became a conservative?
No.
Okay.
Full blown, always conservative.
Is he Jewish?
I don't think so.
No, well, Shapiro wasn't big back then.
Oh, dude, yeah,
Shapiro's blown up now.
yeah,
No.
good on him.
But speaking of Andrew Breitbart, I mean, he was one of the people that came along early on in my political kind of endeavors. Tea Party stuff and all that was kind of when I was like really getting into it.
Like
I got to meet him. Yeah, I got to meet him a couple times. I met him at CPAC. I met him at a big rally, a Tea Party rally in Texas. I actually got him to sign. I got him to sign my copy of Conscience of a Conservative.
Wow.
And that was, months, just months before he passed away. And it was devastating, but he was certainly a huge motivator for me.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, he's obviously influenced. I mean, this whole landscape is kind of his fault because he saw something had to be done and a way to do it.
Well, he cracked the whip and he really sounded the alarm to Republicans and conservatives that saying, you guys are falling behind. Like, you need to get up on this digital stuff and you need to do it now because they're going to own all this stuff. Yep. And which, they still do anyways.
Pretty much do.
Now,
but Fox has a subscription service, so it's
right. But Republicans have certainly gotten a lot savvier about their digital efforts.
Rand Paul's Twitter account, that is some fun stuff to read, man.
He is a fun person just to listen to when he's on his kick in the Senate. It's amazing. Or the House. It's amazing.
It's funny, but yeah, I mean, you get a handful of Republicans that are like, oh my God, this guy's a hole in a good way. This is great. I love, someone's getting sassy on Twitter finally. And then, of course, they get banned for hate speech,
Again, you're going to keep on seeing it where the Walk Away campaign, the LGBT groups, the log cabin groups, all these groups are starting to really build up themselves. And a lot of money is getting pushed behind them to start building more clubs, more organizations, young Republicans, and all this stuff. And you're going to see, I cannot wait for 2022 just because the amount of time we're going to have to be able to take out all of those small congressional districts and all those Senate seats that will be open and ripe for the taking. I'm so excited for that race. And it's just, it's so exciting to see because now as the party out of power in the presidency, we have so much more leverage to be able to go and really pinpoint those 10, 20, 30 seats that we can really take out. Again, this is going to be a Newt Gingrich Clinton kind of situation. You cut the Biden administration by the knees, they can't do anything. And you force a president to say the era of big business, big government is over. That's insane.
I can't wait. And I mean, and again, I was an ever Trumper at that time, and now I'm full blown on the train and stuff. And And MAGA is a movement. It's not just a person. So I'm excited to see what comes next.
Oh yeah! So shout outs to Kimberly Davis for being right up there with Hector, throwing out the details and all of our corrections. She is an awesome businesswoman of South Tampa. I've actually been to her business in Brandon.
Oh,
she is amazing. So she has a GNC store in Brandon, one of the few independent stores that survived the bankruptcy.
That's pretty amazing.
So she and her husband have been doing that. They're fabulous people, fabulous children.
Cool.
So they're awesome people to be a part of. Hector is a silent individual working in the U.S. government at the moment, or Hillsborough County government, and we're not gonna get him in trouble.
Not gonna out him, so I get it because
Hector is awesome, and these are just a great Republicans, great conservatives.
They have 4 stores apparently, is what Kimberly's saying. Hi, Kimberly.
Awesome.
Okay. I apologize.
Post all the details in the comments. But hey, we want to stick true to our promise to you and keep you here for an hour. Thanks, man. Thanks so much for coming on.
And just obviously shout out to my wife as well, Rebecca, and our newborn. And again, we were talking earlier, like I always want to shout her out because none of the stuff that I did or any of us do could done without her. Like she was there from the day one. Saw me in the highs and the uber lows of that whole thing. Yeah. So I never want to fail to shout out my lovely wife Rebecca. So
well, it's one of those things that when you have the monstrosity that is the media, because I'm sure it was far more than just CNN coming after you for what you did. Again, like it seriously makes you contemplate life and the choices you've made in life. Again, going back to the Scientology docuseries on Netflix, there was a guy here in Clearwater who started a campaign to counteract Scientology. And they basically made his life so miserable for so long. He actually left the country. And then still was so traumatized by all of it that he committed suicide. So again, and that's a religious organization who's doing quasi quasi-religious organization.
I mean, they're tax exempt, so maybe technically a religion.
That is no religion right there. I will be honest. I don't even care what anyone says. Come at me. I don't care.
But in comparison, it's not a global. But in comparison, it's not a global media entity.
It was scary, and I appreciate y'all's time as well, man. But I mean, it was terrifying because like literally every day. I mean, you watch any of the opinion shows. I mean, you see who's on there. Like you have current and former heads of the CIA, sitting members of Congress on both sides of the aisle. You have like very powerful people. It's obviously very well connected. So that was definitely some of the fears that she and I had, and going back and forth and like, man, is this something I really want to do? Like, not only am I torching my career, but like, man, I don't know if I'm going to get Hillaried or whatever. Seriously, those are the thoughts that ran through my mind. Like you have Hillary surrogates and stuff, and like it's hashtag Seth Rich, but that's another story. But it's one of those things. Like it was a terrifying season.
I love my wife. Yeah. I will never commit suicide, and I have no information of the Hillary Clinton kill list.
Nothing to lead to her arrest.
Yeah. You will never see me in a park getting suicided. That's never going to happen.
In broad daylight and my wallet intact.
What? There's a gun in this room?
In broad daylight and my watch and wallet are still intact?
We apologize whoever's listening to this conversation right now. But you have been awesome. Thanks, what you did was awesome. And what you continue to do will continue to spread conservatism and the movement as us showing light into the darkness of these people that think they can control what is being disseminated out when really they're just an emperor with no clothes on.
Well, and the major point being that we think that these media corporations have our best interests at heart, and they don't. They just plain and simple don't. The money is obviously their major motivator, and their agenda probably comes a close second to that. And so, again, can't thank you enough for all your work. Again, thanks to Cary Poarch. Thank you to Anibal Cabrera. And we're going to go ahead and wrap it up on that note. It's been another episode of The Yard Sign, the most important relevant podcast in politics. Make sure you sign up for the audio version of the podcast on Apple, Google, Spotify, Audible, and Amazon. Talking about media giants.
And we paid our dues. Also,
that's right.
Also, everyone, we will see you next year. We are happy. That's right. Yeah, we are finally almost done with level 12 of 2020. And as long as no one does anything stupid, Nashville, then we will be perfectly fine entering into 2021. And we are all excited and pray to the Lord that the Roaring 20s starts soon.
Oh my gosh. All right. Good night, everybody.